So dear students, in today's lecture, we are going to learn about the nomograph, Stokes law and types of rotor. We have already covered the basic principle of sedimentation and centrifugation. So let's start with nomograph. As the name indicated, it is a graph that has three columns. On the first column, radial distance has been given in millimeter. In the second column, RCF has been given. And we know that RCF has no unit because it is a ratio of applied centrifugal field of centrifuges divided by the gravity constant. And on the third column, we have RPM, that is the speed of rotor in rotation per minute. Now, see, we have already discussed what is RCF and now we know the formula of RCF. So the RCF can be easily calculated. But centrifugation manuals usually contain a graph, that is nomograph, that is used for the convenient conversion between the RCF and the speed of centrifuge at different radii to the centrifugation rotor or centrifugation spindle to the point along the centrifugal tube. Now, how can we understand this thing more precisely? See, for a particular centrifuges, the radial distance is fixed. Okay, although this radial distance may vary from centrifuge to centrifuge because as we know that a centrifuge has is a device that has a central axis of rotation. Okay, and around the centrifugation axis, we have a bare hose on which we have to put our sample tube. So the distance from rotor axis to the sample tube will be the R or the radial distance. So we cannot change the radial distance for a particular centrifuges. Now the second thing is RCF. RCF for a specific biomolecules or for a specific particle is specific. Means if we know that the viscosity of fluid is so and so, right? And we have a biological mixture through which we have to separate the mitochondria, and we know that for the separation of mitochondria at radial distance of 50 is 80,000, right? Now we have to set the speed of rotor through the knob that is already given on the device. So how can we set or how can we know that on which rotor tube we have to operate our system? So this is a graph. I already told you radial distance has been given. Suppose the centrifuge that we have for separation has radial distance of 50 millimeter. Okay, and 90,000 is the RCF that is required for the separation of mitochondria. So what will we do? We will just draw a straight line that cross this 50 and this 90 and on the third column this will intersect any point that is for the RPM. Now the point where this straight edge intersect the column of RPM is the required RPM to get the RCF of 90,000. I think this is clear to you. Now let's read. A nomograph consists of a three column representing the radial distance in millimeter, the relative centrifugal field and the rotor speed in RPM. For the conversion between the relative centrifugal field and the speed of centrifuge spindle in RPM at different radii, a straight edge line is drawn through the known values of two columns. Then the desired figure is read where the straight edge intersects the third column. Now, if you remember, when you derive the velocity of particle under sedimentation, you will get some equation through which you can say that the velocity of sedimentation depends on so and so. But these are not the only parameters that affect the velocity of particle under sedimentation, and this has been proven by Stokes, that is known as the Stokes law. And to explain this, the Stokes has given an equation that is V is equal to 2 by 9 R square within bracket rho P minus rho M divided by neta into G, where we know that rho P is the density of the particle, rho M is the density of the medium or the fluid, neta is the viscosity of medium, G is the gravity constant, R is the radial distance, V is the velocity, and what is 2 by 9? 2 by 9 is the shape factor for the spherical particle. See, so after deriving this equation, the Stokes law explained that In a suspension of biological particles, the rate of sedimentation depends not only upon the applied centrifugal field but also on the nature of the particle, its density and radius, and also the viscosity of the surrounding medium. The Stokes law describes this relationship for the sedimentation of a rigid spherical particle, and we have discussed the equation V is equal to 2 by 9 R square rho P minus rho M by theta into G. Now, this is a numerical problem and you have to solve this numerical. The question is like a fixed angle rotor exhibits a minimum radius R minimum at the top of the centrifuge tube of 3.5 centimeter and the maximum radius R max at the bottom of the tube is 7 cm or 7 centimeter. Okay. Now, if the rotor is operated at the speed of 20,000 rpm, what will be the RCF at the top as well as at the bottom of the centrifuge tube? Okay, I am giving you 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Just solve this equation and tell me the answer. In the next slide, I will share the solution of this question. This is the solution of the question that we have discussed in the previous slide. The RCF may be calculated by using the equation 1.12 into 10 to the power minus 5 RPM square into R, where RPM is the small s or the rotation per minute. At the top of the centrifuge tube, the RCF will be 1.12 into 10 to the power minus 5 into 20,000 square into 3.5, and the answer is 15,680. We already discussed the RCF has no unit. At the bottom of the centrifuge tube, the RCF will be 1.12 into 10 to the power minus 5 multiplied by 20,000 square into 7, which is the radial distance at the bottom, and we will get the answer 31360. This calculation illustrates that with fixed angle rotors, the centrifugal field at the top and the bottom of the centrifuge tube might differ considerably. In this case, exactly twofold. Right? Now, I know that you people don't know what is fixed angle rotor, which is swing bucket. So that we will discuss in the next slide. Then you will correlate this statement with the study. Now, coming to the instrumentation. So the first question is, what is centrifuge? How can we define centrifuge? The centrifuge is a device that is used to separate components of a mixture on the basis of their size, density, viscosity of the medium, and the rotor speed. The centrifuge is commonly used in laboratories for the separation of biomolecules from a crude extract. In a centrifuge, the sample is kept in a rotor that is rotated about a fixed point that is known as the axis of the rotation that resulted in strong force perpendicular to the axis. There are different types of centrifuges used for the separation of different molecules, but they work on the principle of sedimentation that we have learned. On this slide, I am showing you the design of the basic centrifuge. The rotor is closed by the rotor lid. You can see here, this is the lid of the rotor. The rotor is located in a rotor chamber which is covered by a metal centrifuge lid. This is a rotor, this is a rotor lid, and this is a lid. And this is a chamber on which the rotor is placed. The open lid prevents the motor from turning the rotor when the rotor chamber is open. During the operation, the lid is locked. The lid protects the user from being injured by touching a rapidly spinning rotor, and the rotor chamber and the lid of high quality centrifuges are robust enough to survive a rotor failure at full speed. We have used this term rotor so many times. So you should understand that rotor is the main part of the centrifuge. This is also known as the heart of the centrifuge. Rotors in centrifuge are the motor device that house the tubes with the samples. Centrifuge rotors are designed to generate rotation speed that can bring about the separation of components in the sample. There are mainly 3 types of rotors used in the centrifuges: fixed angle rotors, vertical rotors, and swing bucket rotors. Now, what is fixed angle rotors? As the name indicated, these rotors hold the sample tubes at an angle of 45 or less than 45 in relation to the axis of rotor. In this type of rotor, the particles strike the opposite side of the tube, where the particles finally slide down and are collected at the bottom as a pellet. These are faster than other types of rotors as the path length of the tube increases. However, as the direction of the force is different from the position of the tube, some particles might remain at the side of the tubes. You can see here on the picture, these are the different type of fixed angle rotors. You can see that these bare holes are tilted towards the axis of the rotation and this angle is either 45 or less than 45. What will happen? The particle which will at the top of the centrifuge tube will be near to the rotor axis and this will be the R minimum, whereas the particle that will be on the bottom of the sample tube will be far from the axis of rotation and that will be the R maximum. Now you can correlate this R minimum, R and R maximum that you have calculated in the previous numerical. Okay, so these are the examples of fixed angle rotors. The bare holes may vary in number. The angle may slightly vary, not too much. So this is the fixed angle rotor. Now the vertical rotors. The vertical rotors provide the shortest path length, fastest run time and the highest resolution of all the rotors. In vertical rotors, the tube are vertical during the operation of the centrifuge. You can see here these are the pictures of some vertical rotors. This is the axis of rotation and these are the bare holes on which we have to keep our sample tubes in a vertical position so that we can say that the angle between the axis of rotation and the sample tube will be 0 because the axis of rotation and the sample tube will be parallel to each other. The yield of the rotor is not as ideal as the position of the tube doesn't align with the direction of the centrifugal force. As a result, instead of settling down, the particles tend to spread towards the outer wall of the tubes. These are commonly used in isopycnic and density gradient centrifugation. Now, you have come up with the two different terminology, isopycnic and density gradient. This term we will discuss when we discuss the preparative centrifugation or the process of centrifugation. Okay, so these are the vertical rotors. Swing bucket rotor. Swinging bucket rotors hold the tube at an angle of 90 degrees as the rotor swings as the process is start. You can see here, this is a picture of swing bucket rotor. These are the tubes. Here we are calling this tube as a bucket. These buckets are joined at its top end but these are free at the lower end. When this rotor spins, what will happen? This tube will take a horizontal position or 90 degree to the rotor of the axis. Means when we are not running the rotor, the sample tube will be at the parallel of the axis of rotation. But during the run, these sample tube take the angle of 90 degree with the axis of rotation. In this rotor, the tubes are suspended in the rack that allow the tube to be moved enough to acquire the horizontal position. Suppose this is a tube. When you run this rotor, this tube will come in a vertical position. I will explain in the next slide how this happens. In this type of rotor, the particles are present along the direction or the path of the force that allows the particle to be moved away from the rotor towards the bottom of the tube. Because the tube remains horizontal, the supernatant remains as a flat surface allowing the deposited particles to be separated from the supernatant. Now on this slide, I have drawn some figures so that you can compare the fixed angle vertical and the swing bucket rotor. This is the fixed angle rotor. This is a sample tube. You can see that the angle of the sample tube and the rotor axis is less than 45. This is the rotor axis. This is the vertical rotor. During the run, the R maximum and R minimum of the sample tube will be remain constant in case of vertical rotor. But what happened in case of swing bucket rotor? This is the position of the sample tube when we are not running our process, but during a spin, this sample tube turn into 90 degree so that the centrifuge gives more centrifugal tube, because we know that the RPM also depends on the R, and here you can see that R is getting increased when the sample tube turn into 90 degree angle and the separation happens in this direction. So these are the pictures of different type of rotors for clear explanation. Now, coming to the operation of centrifugation. When we increase the effective gravitational force, that will more rapidly and completely cause the precipitate to gather on the bottom of the tube, and that aggregate or precipitate is known as the pellet. The remaining solution is called the supernatant or the supernatant. The supernatant liquid is then either decanted from the tube without disturbing a pellet or can be withdrawn using a partial pipette. The rate of centrifugation is specified by the acceleration applied to the sample, that is typically measured in revolution per minute, or RCF, that is relative centrifugal field. The particle settling velocity in the centrifugation is a function of their size and shape, centrifugal acceleration, the volume fraction of the solids present, and the density difference between the particle and the liquid, as well as on the viscosity. Now, with the use of this slide, I will try to explain the process in different type of rotors. See, in case of fixed angle rotor, I have already told you that the sample tube is tilted toward the axis of rotation with the angle of 14 to 40 degrees. Okay, so we know that the proximal end of the sample tube will be near to the axis of rotation, whereas the bottom will be far from the axis of rotation. So the R minimum will be the distance of the axis of rotation toward the top end, and R maximum is the distance of axis of rotation from the bottom of the tube, and R average will be somewhere in between R minimum and R maximum. The direction of centrifugal field will be in this, towards this. Okay, and for this sample tube, the direction of centrifugal field is left to right, but for this tube it will be right to left. See, now what about vertical rotors? We know that in vertical rotors, when the particle is present in the top, it will have a same distance from the axis of rotation with the particle that is at the bottom of the sample tube. So here the calculation of R minimum and R maximum will take place differently. The R minimum will be the distance of this wall of the sample tube from the axis of rotation, this wall, okay, and the R maximum will be the distance of this end, what means far away end of the sample tube from the axis of rotation, and R average is the distance of the axis of sample tube from the axis of rotation. This is centrifugal tube. If centrifugal tube is on the right hand side, the centrifugal field will be from the left to right, and when sample tube is at the left, the centrifugal field will be from the right to the left. Scenario is entirely different from the swing bucket rotor. In swing bucket rotor, during rotation, the sample tube takes the position at the 90-degree angle of the axis of rotation. The direction of centrifugal field will be same as we have learned in fixed angle rotor and the vertical rotor, but the R minimum will be the distance at the top. You can see here, when this sample tube turns into this direction, the R minimum will be the distance of the top end of the sample tube from the axis of rotation. R maximum will be the distance of the bottom of the sample tube from the axis of rotation, and this is the R average that will find somewhere in between the height of the sample tube. See, I have used RPM as a revolution per second, and at some places I have used rotation per second. In case of centrifuges, the R rotation and revolution will be the same because we are not talking about the earth. Okay, but the correct term is revolution per minute. So just keep in mind, by chance I may use some rotation per minute, but the correct version is revolution per minute. RPM is revolution per minute. The pattern of separation of biomolecules also differ from rotor to rotor. You can see here ABC. A is the separation of biomolecules in fixed angle rotors. B is the separation of biomolecules in vertical rotors, whereas C is the separation of biomolecules in swing bucket rotor. You can see in fixed angle rotor, first the mixture of biomolecules separated like this. You can see here they expand in tilted direction, then they get separated, and finally we will get the different band at different height of the sample tube. What happened in case of vertical rotor? See, when we start our run, the material first accumulate at the wall of the sample tube like this, then it will drop down in a vertical way and the separation will occur vertically. After vertical separation, the separation takes place horizontally and we will get different bands at the different heights. In case of swing bucket rotation, swing bucket rotors, this is the position when we have not started the separation or we have not just switched on the centrifuges. At spin, the sample tube turn like this and the separation takes place in the direction of centrifugal field, and we will get different bands of different fraction of biomolecules. This is how the mixture of biomolecules separated differently in the different type of rotors. Now let's have a brief on centrifuge tubes. The centrifuge tubes or centrifuge tips are the tapered tubes of various sizes, generally made up of glass or plastics. They may vary in capacity. They may be of smaller capacities and known as microcentrifuges. These microcentrifuges are extensively used in molecular biology laboratories. The most commonly encountered tubes are of about the size and shape of normal test tube, that is generally approx 10 cm in length. Microcentrifuges typically accommodate microcentrifuge tube with capacities from 250 microliter to 2 milliliter. These are exclusively made up of plastics. Glass centrifuge tubes can be used with more solvents but tend to be more expensive. They can be cleaned like other laboratory glasswares and can be sterilized by autoclaving. Plastic centrifuge tubes, especially microcentrifuge tubes, tend to be less expensive. Water is preferred when plastic centrifuge tubes are used. They are more difficult to clean thoroughly and they are generally disposable. These are the pictures of microcentrifuges tube. You can see the microcentrifuge tubes of 2 milliliter size, 1.5 milliliter and 200 microliter in size. These tubes are generally used for PCR. In this figure, you can see screw top microcentrifuges tube. Now, the type of centrifuge. The most obvious difference between centrifuges are the maximum speed at which biological specimens are subjected to increased sedimentation, the presence or absence of vacuum, the potential for refrigeration or general manipulation of the temperature during the centrifugation run, the maximum volume of samples and capacity for individual centrifugation tube. Many different types of centrifuges are commercially available that include low capacity, low speed preparative centrifuges, refrigerated high speed preparative centrifuges, analytical ultracentrifuges, preparative ultracentrifuges, large scale clinical centrifuges, small scale laboratory microfuges. Now, these preparatory and ultracentrifuges you will learn in detail. These are some references from where I have taken material to teach you. Wilson and Wacker you can refer for the study, and some websites I have used for material. So, class, thanks for your patience.